If you're a real estate investor and you're still cutting six-figure checks up front for insurance, you're doing it the hard way. What if I told you there's a smarter play where you keep your cash, finance your insurance premium, and come out ahead? Because there's a little known strategy called premium financing. And when it's structured the right way with us, it's not just financing, it's leverage. Let me give you an example. Say you have a $100,000 insurance policy. With a premium finance contract, you only put down 10%, 25%. Finance the rest at an APR of 7.5%. Now that sounds high to some people until you realize you're only making 10 monthly payments that include principal. That brings your true effective cost closer 3.8 to 4.2% because you're paying it down fast with principal monthly. That's the power of amortization and the law of 72 in action. And you're not using your line of credit, your loans. You're not writing a $100,000 check. You're keeping your cash in your deal, in the business, or in your next project. Now, let me tell you who figured this out long before anyone else was talking about it. His name, David Gabrielson. He started Capital Premium Finance in 1983. No trust fund, no venture capital, just grit, faith, and $500 a month. And he started growing the company and his family. Fast forward 40 years. David's firm has financed over $1 billion in insurance premiums. That's right. He's helped more than 4,000 agencies and thousands of commercial clients unlock liquidity, reduce risk, and grow faster. And unlike most finance companies in this space, he didn't do it by charging more. He did it by being creative and creating a system that pays agencies like us on the backside. At Premier Protection, we partner with David's firm because of one reason. His system lets us invest into the finance pool, generate returns without increasing your rate, and pass those gains back to you. Other agencies, they mark up the spread on your financing. We don't have to because of David. Why? Because David's strategy is patent. It pays us from the capital side, not the client side. That means our real estate investors pay less and we still win as an agency. And because of that structure, we're able to deliver what most insurance agencies or brokers can't. We lower finance costs, better terms, more control, and more money back into the deals that are building America, your deals. Let me give you a real example. One of our clients, multifamily investor, 3,000 doors, had a $400,000 premium renewal coming due. They were about to pay in full, stroke a check. We stepped in, structured it with Capital Premium Finance. They put $100,000 down and financed the rest over 10 payments. Their effective cost of capital, get this, came out under 4%. And that freed up $300,000 in deployable capital, which they used to complete renovations and increase their net operating income across 4 different properties, right? They added net income of over $40,000 annually, and at a 5.5 cap rate, that added $725,000 in portfolio value without touching debt, equity, or reserves. That's what happens when your insurance agent and program isn't just coverage, it's capital strategy. And that's why we're sharing this story here on Real Estate Profit Boost today, because this podcast is for developers, operators, and deal makers who want to scale smarter, protect their assets, and grow without compromise or greed. So if you're looking for real ROI, not just theory, subscribe right now to this channel, because this is where we reveal the strategies behind the spreadsheets and show you how to leverage tools like premium financing to stay liquid, stay bankable, and stay in control. All right, now let's meet the man who made all of this possible, David Gabrielson, founder of Capital Premium Finance. Let's go.
I got this idea of co-funding where the agencies can co-fund with me. So when I go out on a date, I'm not going to tell Miss America that I can do the same thing as Mr. America. I'm going to tell you the difference. The difference between me is I went out and got a provisional patent on co-funding, meaning that the agencies can co-fund with me because I'm going to have to, I didn't grow up rich. I'm going to have to borrow the money from somebody. Well, I thought, what if I could borrow it from the agencies, or the agencies wanted to co-fund with me and co-fund their book? And so I went to the lawyers and I went and got a provisional patent, and it's worked out really well. And just like McDonald's Golden Arches, you can't copy it. Well, you can't copy what I've got. So I have what they call agency funding participation, where we take your book size and just, for example, small, you finance $1 million. It doesn't take me $1 million. It takes me 400,000 to fund your $1 million. You can participate in that 400,000 that it takes me to fund your book. I'll pay you, right now I pay you 5% interest on your money, compounded monthly. You can put it in and take it out as you wish. It's called the flex account. And I'm just borrowing from the agent versus the bank. And it's clever. No one can do it. It makes more money when you're adding your points in to your rates every month to the policies, because you should be paid. And most agencies add points on. You can take those points instead of me writing you a check out and you take it and put it in your operating account. You can leave with me and I'll pay you 5% on your money.
You have $1 million policy. You put $250,000 down. You finance that over 10 payments or 12 payments. He's got flexibility once you have a proven track record to do it at 12 payments at a 5.5 cap, and you show it on your P&L when you go to sell it or refinance the property. Guess what? At $30,000, I just increased your value by $900,000.
When you bring in a loan, they don't want to use their line of credit to pay their premium because that's a dollar for dollar. They can take that dollar and multiply it to 13. So when you come in and you're offering them a service where you're giving them a loan, it doesn't tie up their line of credit. It's a great rate. They are happy now. Everybody wins, and that's the only way it should be. The insured wins, the agency wins, and capital wins. And if that's the case, let's just do it again next year and then the year after.
So I met David's company at a convention. His son, a $2 bill was handed to me. It worked because it was unique. I still have the first one today. Now I got one on a plaque, thanks to you, from the golf tournament.
My grandpa, Gabrielson, when I was 8 years old, gave me a $2 bill. I thought it was the coolest thing I ever got. But it was another thing. It was a brand, and I didn't know it. And I had it, and I was eight years old. And why did I fall in love with the $2 bill? Well, I held on to it for a long time, almost 20 years. And when I started Capital is unique as a $2 bill. It was done for a reason. I didn't know what it was at the time, but it was another aha moment, something that happened to me in the past that I didn't understand at the time, but would bless my life in the future. So started handing out $2 bills. People remember that. You go to a trade show, they don't remember anything about what was said at the trade show, but they'll remember the $2 bill. And it's like dancing with Miss America. If I want to dance with Miss America, I got to do something different than what Mr. America is doing. So if I walk up and say, hey, I can do the same thing as him, she's not going to switch. So I show up with the $2 bills. I show up with my chocolate factory. I show up with my properties. I show up with a lot of different stuff that's different than what he's doing, so that I can at least get a chance at getting to dance with her. And I just apply that as insurance agents. And why am I going to choose somebody? What makes them different that I would choose them over someone else? Same thing in entrepreneurship and financing premiums or selling real estate or buying real estate. You have to be different.
So you mentioned you just had 10 kids. It's interesting because I have 4. How do we get to 10 kids? I love it. I love it because, create, multiply. And listen, at the end of the day, what do we do this all for? Tell me about that story. How'd you get to 10 kids?
So when I met my wife in 1974, I graduated from high school barely, and I went to a small college in Eastern Idaho. I took a tennis class, and I was really a good tennis player, and that's where I met my wife. She was from Southern California. So she was a good tennis player, and so was I. And I failed everything else. I had to drop out. I passed one class, that was tennis. I left and served my church for a couple of years, and then I came back. And then I met her again at BYU in Provo, and then I ran into Lorianne again. And I mean, it was just random. I don't know how it happened because it was supposed to, but as we got serious, said, David, I just want you to know that I'm going to have 10 children, and you have to be okay with that. Well, coming from my mom's side's Catholic, my dad's side's Mormon.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't really have a chance.
Right.
That's just the way it was. And
Mm-hmm.
but then yeah, we had 8 children naturally, and it's the best thing I've ever happened in my life. And then I was 50 years old. I adopted a little black kid out of Los Angeles, 1-day-old baby. And then when I was 52, I adopted a 1-day-old black girl out of Atlanta. We had our 10 children, and that's part of my faith, is that, you know, those things happen. I'm grateful for capital to be able to provide for my children and their physical needs. And you know, children are not cheap. I've always tell people it takes money to bring people into this world.
Mm-hmm.
Babies, it takes money to bury moms and dads, and it takes money everything in between. And I'm here to help you earn that money. And if you want to be with capital, that's my goal, is to provide for families. I brought in children, and I've raised these kids. It takes money, and it takes leaders that are going to help. You know, it's our company, not David's. If you want to join us and help us provide, we share the wealth, we take our money home, and we provide for our families. That's why we're here. That's what Capital's mission is. My job is to give people hope and to give them a job.
So now you've seen it. Premium finance isn't just a way to keep cash on hand. It's a strategic lever to grow your portfolio, protect your liquidity, and unlock new opportunities. But the story behind this strategy, that's where it really gets powerful. Because the man who built Capital Premium Finance, he didn't come from wealth. He didn't raise capital. He wasn't handed a business. He built this entire billion-dollar platform out of a basement with 6 kids, 0 connections, and faith that refused to quit. What you're about to hear next is one of the most raw, resilient, and real founder stories you'll ever hear about. It's about grit. It's about purpose. It's about legacy. Let's get into it. Stay tuned and subscribe. Did you encounter moments where the lack or the road was so hard that you started to lose the faith? Or, okay, tell us a little bit about one of your
Everybody
first.
does. If you're going
Yeah,
to be an entrepreneur, you're going to learn by your mistakes. The
that's
question
right.
is, can you out earn your mistakes? And that's where, you know, where I was, and I was, you know, 2 years into it, and I got frauded by a really big agency, and he put up fake contracts, and I bought them because I didn't know what I was doing, and so I had to learn how to do it. And I had just built a brand new home, and life was good, and all of a sudden I get to go home and tell my wife I just got wiped out, and we're going to have to start all over. And she
Wow.
was 9 months pregnant with our 6th child, and she just kept saying, David, we got a good thing going. We'll just have to start all over. And you know how to do it. You just have to learn by your mistakes. And if you're going to be an entrepreneur, you're going to make mistakes. In addition to that, if you still have the faith, you'll continue on because, okay, I did it wrong. I learned by it. I will take this learning and I will make it a benefit to me. And that's what I did. So I turned right around, I recapitalized, I redid everything. And I had a partner, my brother, with me. But yeah, you're going to hit roadblocks. It's just what it is. It's part of the learning curve. You know, these quarterbacks, they come out of college and they get into the pros, and the game's 10 times faster and bigger, and they have to learn. And you're going to get your butt kicked now and then, and just
Right.
like in that. But you learn from those mistakes, and if you learn from them, it will help you be a better person going down the road. And that's what it did. So yes, it's a learning curve. Everybody has it. That's one of the reasons I have my thing is I send out a thing called DFG Moments every Saturday at 9 o'clock Mountain, and I've done it for 3 years. And I
I've
just
read
talk
it.
about being an entrepreneur, and I like it when people tell me the truth. and tell me that it's hard and tell me that I struggle, and I hear the good and I hear the bad. Because if we just hear the good, then when the bad happens, it's like, well, where did that come from? But when you have both and it helps you, it helps me realize, hey, if others can do it, I can do it. If they failed and they came back up, I can do it. And so that's how I just kept going. And that was the theme. Keep going, David. Just keep going. And
No.
you're going to have you're going to have challenges. There's just, if you think entrepreneur is easy, that's why 9 out of 10 businesses fail.
Through that, which is exactly why David never gives up. And what I'm hearing is what the universe is telling me, I'm not ready, right? I'm not ready based on the principles of full abundance and how it works in the laws. And once I realized that it's almost simple, right? Once you realize, and it's in every book, I don't care if it's a Mormon book, I don't care if it's in the Quran, I don't care if it's in Eastern religion, I don't care if it's in Tony Robbins or all of them. It's the same principles on how things work. And once you realize,
that's absolutely correct. All I could say to that is amen. Exactly right. You're going to learn because there's something bigger in the end. And it's, my success has not been on like a hockey stick. It's just been slow. It's like watching grass grow in your front yard. It's really slow, but that's the way you do it. And you'll have to be long-term if you do that, because it's not like Las Vegas. You pull a lever and you're successful. That doesn't work. And if you think that's the way it is, it's not. It's a long road.
Right. No, I get it. I get it 100%. And then the other thing I keep getting is you want to, how do you take Miss America away from Mr. America, right? You said chocolate factory. That's another thing. So you have a chocolate factory. Tell us a little about that. Yeah.
So my son-in-law's mom and dad owned a chocolate factory for a long time. They needed to retire, and they had a really, really good recipe for it's a 50-year-old recipe. So I went to my son-in-law and just asked him, what would you do if you could do anything you wanted to? And he said, I'd like to buy my mom and dad out. And so I bought her mom and dad out. And then, but it's a smaller company, and I just take the logos, and I take the logo of the agency, and I put my chocolates in them, and I send them the chocolate, and they take it and they can give it to their customers, and they get all the glory.
Wow. Another way.
That was my main deal. And if you finance premiums with me, I'll give you so much chocolate. We'll call it a truffle bank. And you can get so many truffles for so much financing. And it's just it's being clever. That's all it is. And I do it to be clever. And most of the 4,000 agencies I work with, most of them have a logo. And, we hand out a lot of chocolate. And then the agencies can get their best insureds. And I'll put Mary's Bakery, they're insured on the top, and they'll put their logo on the back of, Premier Protection and whatever. And you get all the glory. That's what I want. You get the glory. But it's just, and the chocolate tastes good. And I've got really good chocolatiers. And when people come into Utah, everybody wants to go do a tour of the chocolate factory. And I've owned it for 15 years, and I still enjoy the we melt the chocolate, and I love Lucy machine and everything. I mean, let's go.
Right. No, I love it. I love the creativity. I love chocolate. Right. I love dark chocolate.
It's fun. And I go to trade shows, and I got Capital written on them, and the $2 bill. I have a $2 bill truffle, and with the wraps, and I just make it fun.
All right, that's awesome, David. David, what's your philosophy on leadership, and how do you lead people through pressure, as you've been explaining, right? Adversity, growth, and legacy.
I don't expect other people to do things that I don't do myself. So I can't expect other people to do something that I'm not willing to do or try. Now, they may be more talented than me in other areas, but as far as sacrificing, putting up the time, I'm not a yeller and screamer. I let people manage. I have 185 employees. I have different positions. I don't micromanage, but I'm going to go out, and we're going to be okay. We're going to keep going, and I'm going to go out and do what I do really good, and I expect you to go do what you do really good, and I give you the autonomy to do what you feel's right, and in your position at Capital, and I'm going to go do what I do best. And so I think a good leader stays consistent. You just have to work hard. I don't expect anybody to work harder than me. So I'm going to work hard. And, I've done that. I paid a massive price. I've traveled constantly for years and years and went out and got the business that needed to get, and I'm still doing it to a degree. So I guess I'm just going to lead the way. A good leader will lead the way.
So, right. So what early decisions or mindset shifts changed the trajectory? And you touched on it, but what was the decisions and the shifts that you knew this was bigger than you could ever imagine?
Well, to me, it was not only the feeling, but I knew that I could do it. Now,
Confidence.
yeah, it was a great thing. And so when I started to do it, I thirst after the knowledge. I just kept asking more and more questions because I had to learn how to finance premiums. I didn't know what I was doing. And so I would just talk to agencies, sidebar, and just nourished. But then, when the tough times came in, which if you're going to be an entrepreneur, that's what it is. It's tough and it's hard and everything. Well, I would always meditate a lot, especially at night and in the mornings before I got up. And I would just pray to God for help, guidance. And I just felt that spirit of just keep going. And sometimes I just put one foot in front of the other because that's what I was told to do and that it'll work out. But that's the faith that comes into being an entrepreneur is you're going to have to make friends with God and you're going to have to pray a lot. And that's all I do. And when I'm discouraged or I feel overwhelmed or whatever I feel, how am I going to make it? What do I do next? My dad always told me you got to spend money to make money, and I thought that's like taking a girl out on a date and spending $250 and the next night she's out with somebody else, and I thought that's a rip off. But, right. But you're spending money to make money and not all of the things you do pan out. But so you have to learn what works and what doesn't. And that's what I did. I just kept going. I wrote a book. I haven't published it yet, but I've written one and it's called Keep Going, David, because that's what the Spirit kept telling me to do. Keep going, just keep going. And, things always work out and they make sense. But I had that initial, well, if I've been told to do it, then I'm going to do it. And I feel it, and you just have to hold hands.
Right. No, that's the faith. That's the universe. You want higher profits without higher risk. The blueprint's right here. Hit subscribe and watch Real Estate Profit Boost.